Welcome to Playing Above the Line, where we interview entrepreneurs, business owners, and community activists to get their thoughts and perspectives on leadership. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Aviso Group, a business consulting and accounting firm focused on preparing clients for the future through innovation and positive growth. Welcome to Playing Above the Line. I'm Alan, your host, and we are coming to you again today from Hatch in downtown Fairhope. Rick Miller has opened up his space to us the past several weeks to record until our studio gets ready, so we appreciate Rick doing that. If you want to find out more about Hatch Fairhope and what they do, you can visit the website. It's hatchfairhope.com. Our guest today is Jennifer Null, and she is the owner of Gulf Coast CPR Training. Jennifer, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And if you recognize the last name Null, you probably do if you listen to the podcast on a regular basis. Her husband, Josh, was a guest, several months ago now. But so it must not have been too bad of an experience because you showed up today. So that's a good thing, right?
He said it was wonderful.
Okay,
and
good.
It was good because I listened to it.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'm sure he'll be proud to know that you did listen to his episode. So that's great. Let me ask you this first. So Gulf Coast CPR Training, what is it and what do you guys do?
Well, hence the name CPR. We do CPR training, but we are affiliated with American Heart Association. So if you've ever heard American Heart Association, they are the ones that do all the research and funding out there for heart attack, stroke. So if you are in the medical field and you are required to have CPR certification, it is the only one recognized by OSHA. So You get the best of the best.
Yeah, right.
So, and we do the layperson. We do not just healthcare.
Okay. All right. Well, I've got to ask this. Before we started recording, we were just kind of chatting, and you said that your college major was criminal justice. And I was like, how in the world does a criminal justice major end up opening a CPR training center? So take us through that journey a little bit, and what did that look like?
Sure. Well, that's correct. That was my major. Mm-hmm. My first job out of college was a probation parole officer in downtown Kansas City. So for all of those that don't know that, kind of a shocker. And I never understood why Josh and my parents were not happy about it. And I look back now thinking if that was my 22-year-old daughter working in the city, yes, I would not like it. So that quite a career change.
Yeah,
but
no doubt.
American Heart Association and Gulf Coast CPR Training just happened within the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. So after that path of criminal justice, I opened my own franchise. It was a fitness franchise. I'm sure most of you out there have heard of Jazzercise, Inc. Okay. I love it. They're still going strong. And I opened my own location and started it from ground zero to a very healthy, large business.
Okay. So Jazzercise really was the first, that was kind of the first thing of its kind, like kind of combined aerobic activity and dancing and music. So,
right. And it's still going strong. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. That's great.
The name's kind of funny, but they're an amazing company organization.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about that, I'm sure, as we go. So, all right, well, let's talk about leadership. That's why we're here. So when I say leader or leadership, what's your definition? What comes to mind when I say those words?
The first word that pops to my mind is a positive person, but there's multiple terms in my head. You must be hardworking, passionate about what you are leading in, well-rounded. You got to be able to communicate with multiple types of people.
Yeah.
You got to give it 150% to be in a leadership position, or it will not work.
Yeah. There's no doubt. So of positive, focused, passionate, hardworking, dedicated, consistency, all those adjectives that you just listed, is there one that you think stands out more than the other as far as this is a non-negotiable, you got to have this?
Actually, I think all of them. But when I say the word hardworking, so if you're in a leadership position, you have a goal that you're going to have to meet. Mm-hmm. You do not stop until that goal is met. Not 100% in my book, 150%.
Yeah. And
I talk about this with Josh often. I struggle with balancing my business with family because parenting, I want to be 150%, and my business, I want to be 150%. And it's a day-to-day battle in my head because I'm a type A overachiever, and I won't stop until it's done. And sometimes he has to say, stop.
So what does that look like in a practical manner? So you do own this business. Josh, has his own business. You've got a family that if your kids are like mine growing up, they're involved in everything that comes down the pike, and so you're running here and there to baseball or soccer or whatever. How do you either compartmentalize or integrate all that together? We hear the term work-life balance, but I don't think that's really what it is. It's more like work-life integration, right? So you've got to integrate one into the other. So what does that look like? How does that work on a practical?
Well, thankfully, we're in charge, so sometimes the kids go with us, whatever we're doing, and we tag team, and sometimes we got to rely on friends to get someone to another place, but half the time the kids go with me to the office, which is great. And they know sometimes they help teach class. So I'm teaching them at a young age how to stand on their own and to be strong and hardworking. So they do need to be taught those too. So I feel like it's also a life lesson, engaging them in what we do.
Yeah, that's a great approach. And do you find it hard to turn off the entrepreneur, Jennifer, and turn on the wife/mom, or is your mind always kind of thinking about, well, the business and what I need to do next and what's the next move and that kind of thing?
It's a challenge every day because I can't shut it off because I'm worried I'm going to miss something. And it's a baby. The business is a baby in itself. It's 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. However, I do try to put the phone down, even though social media is where all the promotion is right now with COVID. Yeah. So that's very difficult. Josh, I'm going to put him under the bus. He's worse. I have to tell him to put his phone down. Enough's enough. But I think it's unhealthy for us. And honestly, I wish we were in a world where we didn't have all this technology. I'd be happy if I was born in the era of my grandparents. Yeah. So I struggle with that, but it's part of where we're at today. So shutting it off, to answer your question, is difficult, but I know there's a time and a place. And the weekends, Saturday, I try to do that, or in the evenings after like 6, 7 o'clock.
So. I think that's great. And you've obviously got the entrepreneurial spirit. So has that always been something that you've had, or did that come from an experience that you had, or how did you come to be the personality that you are today with this drive and focus and that kind of thing that I think takes to be an entrepreneur?
Oh, definitely. I have to give that to my parents. Okay. So another fun story, when I was 8, they started a newspaper in our TV room. We lost our TV room, and they were printing it in our TV room. And when the other kids in the neighborhood were out playing, I had to sit and stuff the newspaper and roll them. And yes, I had to sit in the back of the car and throw newspapers. And even when I was 16, I would go throw the newspapers. It was one of many jobs. But one thing I learned from both of them was the value of self-reliance. They're 75 and they still work. I don't think they'll ever give it up. They don't work as hard, obviously, but they taught me that it's hard work. It's yours. You go for it. And they still have it. It's not a newspaper anymore. It's a printing company. It was both. It's called the Cass Gazette, and it's been around. I'm not going to tell you how long because then that gives away my age because I'm only 29.
Right. Of course. So they started a newspaper, but so they printed the newspaper and folded it and delivered it. I mean, did they write the content? I mean, how does...
They sold ads. Yeah, they sold ads. Went out. It was a gazette, like a
that's great.
Cass County Gazette. Yes.
Yeah. And so Cass County, where?
That's in Kansas City, a suburb of Kansas City. And now it's just because they've become obsolete newspapers. Yeah. Probably in the last 5 years, they quit doing the newspaper because they were losing so much from it. So they just went strictly printing, and they can print anything you can imagine. So they do it all over the United States, banners, business cards, whatever, signs.
They pivoted really and kind of reinvented their own business model, it sounds like. Yeah.
Yes. So
that's crazy.
But I do feel at a young age of 8, I remember even at 13 telling my dad I wasn't going to work because I didn't get paid. And he came home and he said, "You get your booty in there now." So that was about the last time I talked back to him.
Yeah,
but you know, I always worked with them all through high school, but they always allowed me to branch out. So I worked retail, I worked Sonic, and I made lots of good money. So I always had 2 or 3 jobs growing up. So I feel like they taught me, hey, if you're going to do something, you want something, you got to be driven and go do it.
Well, that's very cool. So shout out to Paul and Mary Jo O'Brien because they obviously had a big influence on you. So that's great. So we asked in the show primer for you to check a couple of boxes of things that you wanted to talk about. And one of the things that you indicated was leading in crisis and change. And that, I think, is fluid in that crisis and change, it takes different forms. But I mean, recently, since March, of 2020, we've been dealing with this COVID-19 crisis, right? And so I've got to think that had a huge impact on you and your business because, I mean, CPR training, back when I was coming through high school and took CPR training, I mean, it was the dummies and you had to get down and, do the mouth to mouth. Probably not the most COVID-friendly environment. So what does that look like? I mean, how have you had to change and innovate and that kind of thing to kind of get through this?
It was a huge adjustment. Plus, all the larger organizations out there, the schools that do certification for the students inside the nursing program, the medical programs, and fire departments, all those people that offered it around quit offering it. I kept my doors open, but had to adjust it quite differently. So one person in at a time. So can you imagine how much to do 5 people? It'd be 5 hours, but then more than 5 hours because we clean, and we did clean just as much prior to COVID. Yeah. Obviously, masks, gloves, all that. Things are still adjusted. My class sizes are condensed significantly. I go the extreme of what American Heart Association says in social distancing. So it financially and timely, it's been hard, especially with having a family too. But we adjusted and we kept going strong, and we got the word out by email, website, and of course, social media. You know how much social media right now more than ever has impacted it. And I have to tell you, I'm kind of anti-social media, but I had to get with the times. I mean, that's where everything's at, and that's what has grown my business, and I owe that to Josh. He's my little marketing director. Okay. Just kidding, but yes, that's why I did what I did.
Well, I mean, just another example of if you didn't adapt and didn't change, then, I mean,
I'd be out of business.
You might not be here, right?
Right.
So, I mean, so I think sometimes that's an aspect of a good leader in that they can't bury their head in the sand and just say, okay, if I just ignore this, it's going to go away, because unfortunately, I mean, I was kind of in the camp in March and April that, well, this is just going to kind of be a temporary thing and it'll run its course and we'll be okay. But I mean, now here we are in, if you're listening to this in real time, in probably November of 2020, and it's still going. And I don't know if there's an end in sight. And so, yeah.
Right. You have to adapt. Huge quality of leadership, definitely.
Well, let me ask you this too, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, because we ask you not only, what you thought made a good leader, but also maybe an area that you could improve on or you want to kind of make some strides in. And this is not shocking to me, because I mean, you definitely are type A personality, and I think a lot of folks like you have a little issue with delegating.
Yes.
And so that's what you said, that you needed to work more on delegating for growth. So talk a little bit about that, and why do you think it's a struggle for you, and then what do you think you need to do to try to kind of, because I think other people can learn immensely from hearing other people's struggles and kind of take some nuggets of wisdom away. So
it's definitely one of my weaknesses, and I talk about it often. For growth, I have to let go of being in control of everything. But my worry is that I hired Joe Blow, whatever his name is, down the street to come teach a class, and I give everything I do 150%. I'm very passionate about what I do, and part of teaching is not just educating, but making them feel comfortable, positive, a great environment, not just monotone voice. And so to me, if my name's branded on it, I want to make sure that person's going to brand me. And I know it's not going to be perfect, but I struggle that daily of letting go. And I struggle with it sometimes at home with the kids when I want the dishes done just right. They're not putting them away just right. Silly stuff, but it's definitely a struggle in my everyday life. But most importantly, if I want growth, I got to be able to let go of that part.
Yeah. Talk about that. What are you looking for in a team member? I mean, what are some qualities that are non-negotiables in your mind when it comes to basically your brand that you've built, from scratch?
First, I got to be able to trust them.
Yeah.
They got to be smart, educated in what we do, and passionate about what we do, and positive and willing to be flexible, because what we do is not consistent on a regular schedule, a 9-to-5 job. So that's kind of difficult too. But it's very rewarding what I do. I mean, I get to teach people to save lives.
Yeah. And you were telling me off mic before that, I mean, your uncle, right, was a direct beneficiary, I guess, for lack of a better term, of this exact CPR. So tell that. That was an interesting story. Tell that about if you don't think you would mind you sharing that.
Oh, no. Uncle Ed. So
Uncle Ed, okay.
He's a retired dentist, and he was retired when this happened. He was on the basketball court playing with his doctor friends, and he went into cardiac arrest, and they started CPR on him. And once the EMTs arrived, they got him back, and now he's over 80, still on the basketball court today. Obviously, he has a defibrillator and pacemaker, but still going strong.
Yeah, that's neat. Yes. So if that's not an endorsement for getting CPR training, I don't know what is. I mean, because I'm sure that he wasn't planning on having a heart attack that day, but I mean, luckily he was there with a bunch of doctors who obviously knew to do that. And so, that kind of training can come in. It could be very vital any time. So
definitely. We all need to know it.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's talk a little bit before we start kind of wrapping up. I asked about a leader that you admire. You mentioned Jazzercise Inc. before, and then the person that you mentioned was the Jazzercise Inc. founder, Jody Shepard Missett, I believe is how you say that, right?
Judy Shepard Missett. Might be my handwriting.
Judy, okay, yeah. Judy Shepard Missett. So talk about Judy and what do you admire about her?
Well, she did start Jazzercise before it became a franchise in 1969, and it's still growing strong. Her daughter has taken over leadership, Shanna, and the amazing amount of franchises they have out there, number 245 out of 500 top franchises.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty awesome. For that long in the fitness industry, too. And the woman is beautiful, amazing. She's got to be in her 70s and still teaching classes.
Oh, wow.
If you've never taken a Jazzercise class, and I'm talking if you're a man or a woman, you got to try it. I know it sounds 80s, but it's not. They're new age stuff. You get your strength training. Here I am promoting them. But it's good. I love it. I wouldn't have started a business with them if I didn't believe.
Yeah. Jazzercise is not a sponsor of this podcast, Carrie, but maybe maybe that's the answer. I mean, producer Carrie's been trying to get me to, I don't know, go to yoga or run or whatever for these many months now, but I just can't. I hasn't really latched on. So maybe Jazzercise is it.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Let's circle back to COVID real quick. I've asked this question several times, and I just think it's interesting. So we were forced to get rid of a lot during COVID. Some good, some not so good. But so what's one thing that you guys have had to, and this can either be professionally or personally, what's one thing you've had to give up that you're not going to bring back into your life, that you've been forced to kind of cut out, and you're like, that's not coming back?
I don't know. I want everything to go back to normal. I don't think that's ever going to be.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, some people in the past have said, well, I've been forced to not work as much, obviously. So they're not planning on working as many hours, or they were forced to come home, at 5 o'clock instead of working to 7 o'clock. So they've been having dinner with their families and that kind of thing. So that's what I was, getting at.
Okay. So yeah, that helps. So I would have to say I stopped allowing the kids to do so many activities and appreciating more one-on-one time together. But I still feel as if I'm working just as hard, if not more now, because of the adjustment I had to make. So I feel like the flip is gone. I'm having to work a little harder, a little bit more hours, but there's more time with them, and they have to go with us sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Real quick, before we wrap up, where do you want Gulf Coast CPR training to go from here? I mean, so you look, down the road, a year, 2 years, 6 months, whatever it is. What's your vision for your company going forward?
My vision is to be letting go of that issue
go.
I have and getting more instructors on board where maybe I only teach a few, where I'm not stretching myself thin. All the office behind scenes that you have to do for any business is very time consuming. So to have people take over those classes where I'm not stretched so thin and enjoy life a little bit more. I'd rather just manage, because it is a lot hard work going on site, lugging that equipment. I get my workout in, cleaning it all, loading it back, and unloading it again. So
yeah, no doubt. Just for my curiosity, what percentage of the population do you think knows CPR? Is it a half? I mean, I don't have any idea.
I don't know that question, but I'll tell you, it's probably very small.
Yeah.
If you took out what was required by medical field, I'd say 10% probably. I would say not much.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone in the back of their mind, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I need that. But how many people actually follow through? So every once in a while, I'll get new parents come in, or expecting parents that say, I want to learn this. And that makes my day. Yeah. People think that they're not required to leave the hospital with CPR when they have a baby, but you are required to check your car seat. Right. You know how many kids choke every day, even on just liquids?
Yeah, that's a great point.
So choking is included in CPR training. So we all need to know it. And you don't have to be certified, just knowing what to do. And it's changed over the years. So if you were in high school and you got it, it's changed.
Yeah, I agree with that. So if you're out there, go learn how to do CPR. Go visit Jennifer.
Go to Gulf Coast CPR Training.
There you go. The website is gulfcoastcprtraining.com. We'll link that in the show notes, and also your personal and professional social media will all be down there. So go check that out. All right, let's play a little of this or that.
That sounds great.
Cookies or cake?
Cookies.
Cat or dog?
Dog.
Pop music or rock music?
Pop.
Pancakes or waffles?
Ooh, both.
All right. Ooh, I like that. Morning or evening?
Evening.
Text message or phone call?
Phone.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Book or movie?
Oh, used to be book, but now my eyes are so bad. It's turning into movies.
All right. Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Comedy or horror?
Comedy, for sure.
Hamburgers or hot dogs?
Hamburgers.
Paper or plastic?
Oh, paper.
It's got to be the politically correct answer right there. So. Reading or writing?
Reading.
T-shirts or sweaters?
T-shirts.
All right. Gold or silver?
Gold.
Witches or wizards? I mean, what I don't know what that means, but anyway.
Witches.
Okay. Well, it's October right now when we're recording this. That's an appropriate answer. Fruits or vegetables?
Fruits, but veggies are better for you.
There you go. Burgers or tacos?
Tacos.
Puzzles or board games?
Oh, board games.
Sandals or sneakers?
Oh, I like my sneakers.
Christmas or Thanksgiving?
Oh, both, again.
There you go. Alaska or Hawaii?
Hawaii.
All right. And last one, Facebook or Twitter?
Facebook. I got a Twitter and I don't know what to do with it.
Same. All right, Jennifer, thanks. This has been great. I appreciate your time and very insightful information.
Thank you for having me. And by the way, I can come to you guys and we can do a little fun CPR training at your office if you guys want.
There you go.
I can do that for you.
Go reach out to Jennifer. Learn CPR.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes and Spotify. It definitely helps us in the ratings, and it also makes it easier for other folks to find the podcast. And as always, a big thank you to producer and editor Carrie Wolf. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Aviso Group. If you want to know more about who we are and what we do, you can visit our website at avisogroup.com. That's AVIZO group.com. You can also check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.